Most people believe they are doing reasonably well financially. They have a stable income, pay their bills on time, own a car, maybe a house, take occasional vacations, and replace their phone every few years. From the outside, this looks like wealth. But if you remove appearances and look only at numbers, the picture changes quickly. The core problem is not low income. The problem is that what looks like middle class wealth is often just a fragile financial position disguised by consumption. Here is the uncomfortable reality. A large share of households that appear financially comfortable have very little actual financial resilience. In the US, surveys consistently show that a significant portion of middle income households would struggle to cover a $1,000, $2,000 unexpected expense without borrowing. At the same time, these same households often carry car payments, credit card balances, and long mortgage terms. The contradiction is not accidental, it is structural. Most people think they are doing the right things because they follow the visible rules of the middle class. They get an education, secure a steady job, increase their lifestyle as income rises, and use credit to smooth spending. On paper, this looks logical. If income grows, upgrading housing, cars, and daily comfort feels justified. The mistake is assuming that income growth alone creates financial security. It does not. To understand the scale of the problem, consider a simplified example. A household earns $90,000 gross per year. After taxes, healthcare, and payroll deductions, take-home pay might be around $65,000. Now subtract a $2,200 monthly mortgage or rent, $26,400 per year, two car payments totaling $900 per month, $10,800 per year, insurance, utilities, groceries, childcare, and basic subscriptions. Very quickly, fixed costs consume 70–80% of net income. What remains is not savings capacity, it is buffer money. And buffer money disappears the moment something breaks. From the outside, this household looks wealthy. Newer cars, a decent home, family trips. From the inside, the system works only as long as income remains stable and expenses do not spike. One job loss, one medical issue, or one interest rate increase can turn stability into stress within months. This is not a rare edge case. It is the default structure for many middle-class households. The deeper issue is that society often defines success by visible consumption rather than balance sheet strength. Net worth, liquidity, and long-term optionality are invisible. Monthly payments are visible. As a result, many people optimize for looking financially established rather than being financially secure. They are not reckless. They are following incentives that reward appearance over resilience. The consequence shows up over time. When most income is committed to fixed obligations, flexibility disappears. Saving becomes irregular. Investing feels risky not because markets are dangerous, but because cash flow is tight. Financial decisions become reactive instead of strategic. Over a 10 or 20-year horizon, this leads to a paradox: decades of work, rising income, and yet limited freedom. At this stage, it is important not to jump to solutions. The first step is understanding the problem clearly. The middle class lie is not that people are lazy or irresponsible. The lie is the belief that maintaining a certain lifestyle automatically equals financial progress. Until this assumption is examined and challenged, no tactic or investment strategy will work consistently. To understand why the middle class illusion persists, it is necessary to look at how income, behavior, and financial structure interact over time. The issue is not that people make one large mistake. It is that many small, reasonable decisions combine into a system that produces fragility instead of strength. The first driver is income structure. For most middle-class households, income comes primarily from a single source: salaried employment. This income is usually predictable, but it is also rigid. It does not scale automatically, and it stops immediately if the job is lost. At the same time, expenses are structured to assume that this income will continue without interruption. Mortgages, car loans, and subscription-based living create fixed monthly obligations that cannot be easily reduced. The household becomes efficient at spending income, but not at converting income into durable financial assets. The second driver is behavioral. When income increases, spending typically follows. This is not irrational. Higher income often comes with higher expectations, social pressure, and genuine needs such as better housing or childcare. The problem is that these upgrades are usually financed through long-term commitments. A raise of $10,000 per year might result in a larger home, a newer car, or private schooling, but it rarely results in a proportional increase in savings or investment. Over time, income growth improves lifestyle, but not financial independence. Consider two households earning the same $100,000 gross income. Household A increases spending with every raise. They move to a larger home, lease newer vehicles, and maintain a lifestyle that absorbs most of their net income. Household B keeps fixed costs lower and channels a consistent portion of income into savings and long-term investments. After 5 years, both households may appear equally successful. After 15 years, their financial positions diverge significantly. Household A relies entirely on continued employment. Household B has options, cash reserves, investment income, and lower mandatory expenses. The difference is not income level, it is system design. Standard financial advice often fails because it does not address this structural issue. Telling people to save more or cut unnecessary expenses ignores the fact that most expenses are already locked in. Mortgages, car payments, and insurance are not easily adjustable month to month. Advice like skip coffee is mathematically irrelevant when fixed costs determine financial outcomes. If 75% of net income is committed before discretionary spending begins, small cuts do not change the trajectory. Another common recommendation is to earn more. Higher income helps, but only if the underlying structure changes. Without a system that prioritizes asset accumulation and flexibility, higher income simply supports a more expensive version of the same fragile setup. Many high-income professionals experience this firsthand. Despite earning well above the median, they feel financially constrained because their obligations scale with income. The absence of a clear financial system is the core issue. Most households operate on autopilot. Money flows in, bills are paid, and whatever remains is treated as optional. There is no explicit framework for converting income into long-term stability. As a result, progress is measured by lifestyle markers rather than by net worth, liquidity, or time independence. This explains why the illusion is so persistent. The system functions smoothly during stable periods. Problems only appear under stress, and by then, options are limited. Without recognizing how income structure, behavior, and fixed obligations interact, people remain trapped in a cycle that looks successful but delivers little real security over time. When the middle class illusion is broken down into concrete actions, several recurring mistakes appear. These are not extreme behaviors. They are common, socially accepted decisions that feel reasonable in the moment but produce weak outcomes over time. The problem is not intelligence or effort, it is the cumulative effect of these choices. The first major mistake is treating lifestyle upgrades as a sign of progress. Many households interpret a higher income as permission to increase fixed expenses. A larger home, newer vehicles, and higher recurring costs are framed as rewards for success. The long-term consequence is that income growth does not increase financial capacity. If a household earning $70,000 saves $5,000 per year, but a household earning $120,000 saves the same amount, the difference in income has not translated into security. Over 20 years, saving $5,000 annually at a modest 5% return results in roughly $165,000. That amount provides limited flexibility, regardless of income history. The second mistake is relying on debt as a neutral tool. Debt is often justified as normal or even smart when payments are manageable. The issue is not the existence of debt, but its scale relative to income and assets. A household with a $500,000 mortgage and $60,000 in combined car and consumer debt may appear stable with a high salary. But if interest rates rise or income drops by 20%, the margin disappears quickly. Over 10 years, interest alone can consume tens of thousands of dollars that could have been invested. This is an opportunity cost that compounds quietly. The third mistake is confusing cash flow comfort with financial strength. Many people feel secure because they can pay their bills each month. This creates a false sense of stability. Cash flow comfort does not equal resilience. If a household has $3,000 left after expenses, but only $10,000 in liquid savings, a single disruption can erase years of perceived progress. Over a 5-year period, this leads to repeated cycles of rebuilding rather than compounding. The fourth mistake is delaying structural change. People often plan to fix finances later, assuming there will be a clearer moment. The cost of delay is measurable. If $1,000 per month is invested starting at age 30 at a 6% return, the result after 35 years is approximately $1.4 million. Starting the same plan at age 40 reduces the outcome to roughly $760,000. The difference is not income, it is timing and decision making. To illustrate the contrast, compare two scenarios over 20 years. Scenario A earns $110,000, increases lifestyle steadily, and saves 5% of income. Scenario B earns $80,000, controls fixed costs, and saves 20%. Assuming identical returns, scenario B often ends with a higher net worth, more liquidity, and lower stress. The conclusion is clear. Income level influences speed, but structure determines outcome. These mistakes do not cause immediate failure, which is why they persist. They create slow erosion. After 5 years, the impact is subtle. After 10 years, options narrow. After 20 years, many people realize they have worked hard without building meaningful independence. The root cause is not insufficient income. It is the absence of deliberate financial decisions that prioritize long-term stability over short-term appearance. The solution to the middle-class illusion is not a single product, investment, or aggressive tactic. It is a structural change in how income is converted into stability. The core principle is simple: reduce dependence on continuous income by building a system that prioritizes liquidity, controlled fixed costs, and long-term asset accumulation. This is not about deprivation. It is about sequencing and design. The first component of the solution is fixed cost control. Fixed costs determine how fragile or resilient a household is. Housing, transportation, and long-term obligations should be sized not to current income, but to conservative income assumptions. A practical rule is to keep total fixed expenses below 50 to 60% of net income. This creates room for savings, flexibility, and error. The mechanism is straightforward. When income drops or expenses rise, the system absorbs the shock without forcing debt or liquidation. The second component is automatic, non-negotiable saving and investing. Instead of saving what is left over, a fixed percentage of income is allocated at the beginning of each month. For many households, 15 to 25% of gross income is realistic over time if fixed costs are controlled. This money is split into two purposes: liquidity and long-term growth. Liquidity means cash reserves that cover at least 6 months of essential expenses. This is not an investment. It is insurance against disruption. Long-term growth comes from diversified investments held for decades, not traded frequently. The logic here is stability through separation. Cash protects against short-term shocks. Investments are allowed to grow without being touched. This reduces the risk of selling assets during the market downturns due to personal emergencies. The system works because it removes emotional decision-making. Money is assigned a role before it is spent. The third component is gradual debt minimization. This does not require extreme repayment strategies. The goal is to reduce obligations that do not generate future income or flexibility. For example, paying off high-interest consumer debt produces a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate. Reducing debt lowers required monthly payments, which directly increases resilience. Over time, this compounds into more available capital for investment or optionality. This approach is stable because it does not rely on forecasts, market timing, or exceptional income growth. It assumes that markets will fluctuate, jobs can be lost, and life will introduce uncertainty. The system is designed to function under these conditions. Even with modest returns of 4 to 6% over long periods, consistency produces meaningful outcomes. Stability comes from process, not prediction. Importantly, this is not about rejecting a comfortable life. It is about delaying some upgrades until the structure can support them without risk. When assets grow and fixed costs remain controlled, lifestyle improvements become optional rather than mandatory. That shift is critical. Optionality is the real measure of financial strength. This solution works because it aligns behavior with long-term outcomes. It replaces reactive spending with intentional allocation. Over time, the household transitions from income dependent to system supported. That is the difference between looking financially secure and actually being secure. All the elements discussed so far can be organized into a single, practical system. The goal of this system is not to maximize short-term returns or optimize lifestyle appearance. Its purpose is to steadily reduce financial fragility and increase long-term control. The structure is simple enough to maintain and strong enough to function under normal stress. The system has four priorities, applied in order. First, limit fixed costs. This sets the maximum level of fragility the household can reach. When fixed obligations remain below roughly 50–60% of net income, financial pressure stays manageable even when income fluctuates. Second, build liquidity. A cash reserve covering at least 6 months of essential expenses creates insulation from disruption. Third, allocate a consistent portion of income to long-term investments. This converts earned income into assets that do not depend on monthly labor. Fourth, gradually reduce non-productive debt to lower mandatory outflows and increase flexibility. If this structure is applied consistently, the changes over time are measurable. After 1 year, the most noticeable difference is reduced stress. Cash reserves exist, bills are predictable, and decisions feel less reactive. Savings may still be modest, but the direction is established. The household begins to experience financial stability as a system rather than a feeling. After 5 years, the effects compound. Fixed costs remain controlled despite income growth. Investment balances are meaningful rather than symbolic. For example, contributing $100 to $200 per month at a conservative average return of 5% results in approximately $80,000 after 5 years. Liquidity remains intact, meaning market volatility does not force bad decisions. At this stage, optionality appears. Job changes, temporary income reductions, or geographic moves become possible without crisis. After 10 years, the difference between appearance-based success and real financial strength becomes clear. Using the same contribution rate, investment assets may exceed $190,000. Combined with low fixed costs and minimal consumer debt, the household operates with leverage over time rather than against it. Income is still important, but it is no longer the only pillar. Financial decisions are guided by structure, not urgency. The immediate actions required are specific. First, calculate true fixed costs as a percentage of net income. This number determines fragility. Second, define a minimum liquidity target based on essential expenses, not lifestyle preferences. Third, automate contributions to both cash reserves and long-term investments so decisions are removed from monthly discretion. Fourth, review debt only in terms of how it affects required monthly payments and long-term flexibility. None of these steps require exceptional income, advanced knowledge, or risk-taking. They require clarity and consistency. The middle-class lie persists because it is easier to measure success by what is visible. This system replaces visibility with durability. The outcome is not dramatic. There is no sudden transformation. What changes is control. Over time, the household moves from maintaining an image to building a position. That shift is quiet, but it is the foundation of real financial security.